Welcome to Sports Beat KC, a sports podcast presented by the Kansas City Star. I'm Blair Kerkhoff, and on today's show, we're talking Royals and Chiefs. Vahe Gregorian and I discuss baseball's unwritten rules. Also, Brooke Pryor stops by to talk all things Chiefs, and that means the comments of General Manager Brett Veach. You'll hear from him later, and the 2019 schedule that was released earlier this week. As baseball brawls go, this one was pretty tame. White Sox shortstop Tim Anderson stepped to the plate to open the sixth inning, and Royals starter Brad Keller plunked him on the backside on the first pitch, a 92-mile-an-hour fastball. Anderson looked like he wanted to step toward Keller, but catcher Martin Maldonado got in between them. Why did this happen? This is where we get into baseball's unwritten rules. 2 innings earlier, Anderson hit a 2-run homer, flipped his bat, and after circling the bases, came close to, if not brushing, Maldonado on the way back to the dugout. The bench is cleared. There were plenty of tempers and jersey grabbing, but I didn't see any punches thrown. The highlight was Royals manager Ned Yost jawing with his counterpart, Rick Renteria. Yost said after the game that he flared up because Renteria was yelling at Royals players to get back to the dugout. The incident made news because, first of all, it was an afternoon game, so you had all day to talk about it. And secondly, it revisited a question baseball's been asking itself a lot lately, and one that I'll ask you, Vahe. Should baseball have unwritten rules when it comes to celebrating home runs?
It's a very simple question, but there's a lot to unpack here, isn't there, Blair? You've got me thinking about 10 things as I ponder this. First of all, let's remember that Brad Keller said the ball got away from him.
In fine baseball tradition, you have to ask him after the game about the pitch, and he has to answer the way that he did.
He has to say that, while other players are saying he did the right thing by hitting him.
That's right.
As Hunter Dozier, I think, eloquently put
he
it.
Did.
You know, the first thing I think of when I see this reaction is I'm kind of a written rule guy. I don't like unwritten rules. And
it's because you never know what the rules are.
You don't. I mean, I have trouble enough handling the ones that I know I'm supposed to handle, like the Royals clubhouse, for instance. What do you not do in spring training? You don't step on the Royals logo in the middle of the clubhouse.
That's right.
Does anybody tell you this till you step on the logo? No. These are the kinds of things that just ruin my day all day long. I'm always thinking about that. So anyway, I stray away from the point here. I think it takes a little bit of nerve for the Royals to be so offended after and I'll call it after the joy with which they played in 14 and 15 particularly had no bounds really in these sorts of things. Now, where are you going to draw the line on what is excessive? Good luck with that. As I understand it, and you might be able to disabuse me of this, it seems that Anderson's, whatever you want to call it, transgression was more maybe than just the bat throw, right? There was some chirping going on too.
There was, and it wasn't just a bat flip; it was a fling. I mean,
right.
He knew he had hit it. It was almost like one of those Jose Bautista, beyond a Bautista flip. He took the bat and flung it with authority, with a little bit of mustard on it, and then circled the bases. And he did seem to brush Maldonado a little bit. He came really close. He had all this room to go outside. That to me was almost the greater offense. I'm okay with the bat flip. I think the bat flip is joy. It's joy, even if you do it with a little bit of an edge. But don't brush up or come close to brushing up against a player like that.
I think that's right. And I think that's probably, if you really broke it down, it'd be nice if you get real, just complete, honest breakdown from the opponent about, okay, where did it really go too far? Because don't we have some room for evolution of some of the unwritten rules? Can't these change over time? And it is interesting to just sort of shift it in your head and apply it to other sports, right? And think about, what it would take to get, a benches clearing brawl from, a guy spiking a football, or
right.
It's just
or a slam dunk,
or a slam dunk. Yeah.
As we watch the NBA playoffs, and I mean, can you imagine? I can't remember who they played now, but can you imagine the opponents taking offense when Tyreek Hill scored a touchdown, climbed into the stands, and got behind the camera?
or doing his James Brown thing. There were so many things.
Right. The potato sack race in Dallas a couple of years ago. They've had some great and clever celebrations that I think that maybe the difference here is, at least when it comes to with football celebrations, that's not in your face. That's not that directed at the opponent.
Well, right. That's part of the. Remember, Tyreek Hill got the penalty in Los Angeles, I think it was,
yeah.
for doing the peace sign but this time it was towards another player.
Turned around as he's going into the end zone and flashed.
And that really is a line there. I will say this, by the way. Keller throwing the ball where he did, if you're going to do that, okay. I mean, right, where it really inflames me, and it was, remember the Noah Syndergaard thing at Escobar
in the World Series, Game 3.
I was truly disgusted by that, and I get that Bob Gibson would do that, every game, throw the ball at people's heads, and, I own the strike zone. Well, I do think baseball has kind of moved on from that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think these cases often get a beaning. They get a plunking.
Yes, I think that's the best way to describe it. And for those who, this is another one
glossary.
of those. Yeah, well, this is another one of those unwritten rules when a pitcher is attempting to throw the baseball at a batter. In some form of retaliation for either a home run that was hit. And keep in mind, in this game on Wednesday, Alex Gordon was hit by a pitch in the first inning, so there was a little bit of that part of the equation. But it's below the belt, and it's on the backside. It's basically on the player's butt.
Yeah.
That's where it's the softest, and you're not gonna have injury there. So that is an unwritten rule.
Well, listen, and here's the other thing that was on my mind watching that the other day. Who's on the White Sox these days but Kelvin Herrera? Now, Kelvin Herrera, we can remember for many great things, but a rather infamous moment of his when he threw. Was it Brett Lowry's head he threw at?
Yes, I think you're right.
And missed, but then pointed to his head later, and then Kelvin's answer afterwards was not the ball got away from him, that he was trying to make Lowry think about it.
That's right.
As opposed to, I'm throwing at your cabeza. So, but can you imagine if Kelvin had hit somebody high late in that game?
With his arm,
with his arm and his history, and it being against the Royals. But I don't think there's any animosity with the Royals. I think he treasures his time with the Royals.
Right.
So.
And there was a little history. There is a little history between Anderson and the Royals and the White Sox and the Royals too. And someone had a really good tweet. I think it was Mick Schaefer from Channel 41 who says, "Nothing good seems to happen along the first baseline."
Yes.
in White Sox Stadium.
Yes, that was Ventura, John with somebody.
Yes.
Who was it?
Well, it was also when the fans came out of the stands. I believe this is actually before he actually came here, but a fan came out of the stands and brawled with the Royals' first base coach. So it's there's a history of craziness that goes on.
Is that permitted in the unwritten rules? The brawl with the first base coach
from a fan? That's a written rule, I believe. That is not an unwritten rule.
So look, let me flip this on you real quick. Why can't baseball write down these rules? Because retaliation isn't really supposed to be part of the game?
Because of what Brad Keller said after the game. It just got away from him. It just got away. You're gonna fine him for a pitch that he was trying to throw inside, trying to protect the plate a little bit. So that's what makes it so much gray area when it comes to these incidents. I think the whole thing could have been avoided if Anderson, who is something of a hothead, if he had just taken first base, hit by a pitch, understand what had just happened.
Yes.
Even if you wanted to stare down Keller for a moment, stare him down, but Maldonado got in between him. Just go to first base and take your base. But he was jawing a little bit.
Well, one last thing there, too. I did think it was kind of flimsy reason to throw, from what I could tell, to throw Anderson out.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Not only Anderson got ejected, Dale Swaim, and Keller. I think there were a total of 4 who got ejected. And I actually think the Royals got the better of that deal because Anderson's one of the hottest hitters in baseball, and Keller was already at 90 pitches. He only had about an inning. That was probably his last inning. He was
probably at his pitch count. Why don't you use this last one that way? What was kind of funny also, I don't know if you were watching on TV, but Ned Yost, I didn't really understand why he didn't get kicked out. And then the camera flashed on him as the game resumed, and he was kind of just sort of chortling, talking to whoever was next to him. And it seemed to me he was basically saying, I can't believe I didn't get kicked out. Right. I'm just making that up, but that's what it looked like to me.
So the Royals got the win, 4-3 in 10 innings. Hunter Dozier hit the 10th inning home run. The road trip continues. That started a 10-game road trip. It continues in New York and Tampa Bay before the Royals come home next week. So, Vahe, before we let you go, what's your Sunday column?
Well, we've been thinking a lot about the Chiefs, looking towards the draft, but also, again, thinking about kind of the absolute just dismantling of the defense in every single way. And so I'm sort of writing about that in the context of the energy that seems to be bringing around Arrowhead. We thought a little bit today about the energy it brings when somebody's telling you that Andy Reid's got a stack of index cards this thick with new Pat plays. But the flip side is that's not really going to matter very much if the defense doesn't change. And I'll give this to them. I've thought about this a lot because I was critical of them early because I didn't really understand where this was all going with the big changes. But frankly, I find myself impressed with their boldness, and they're going after it.
It wasn't just jettisoning veterans, Eric Berry, Justin Houston, Dee Ford, Steven Nelson, all these guys who either weren't re-signed or left via free agency. They brought in a load of people. Somebody was telling us earlier today, maybe it was you putting pencil to paper. How many new starters are we looking at here?
Well, we're looking at probably 6 or 7, depending on the alignments. But something this made me look at just in the context of Veach. I just went back and looked at the starting lineup in the first game in the Veach era was that game at New England in 2017. There was one defensive starter left on this team from that game, Chris Jones. That's it. Everybody else gone.
That's amazing. And it's not like this team hasn't had success in that time. This is the type of overhaul you'd expect from a team that went 5-11 and 4-12, not 11-5 and 12-4.
I think that sentence will enhance the thing I've been working on, Blair. Thank you for spackling that in for me. I'm gonna write that down before I leave.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Vahe, and we will talk to you again soon.
My pleasure, Blair.
Hey, it's Blair Kerkhoff, and if you're listening to this, you love Kansas City sports, whether it's the Chiefs, Royals, Sporting, Mizzou, KU, or K-State. And no one covers these teams like the Kansas City Star. If you currently subscribe to the paper or have a digital subscription, thank you for your support. And if you don't, here's a great offer. It's called Sports Pass, unlimited digital access to every sports story and video on kansascity.com. And it's just $30 for the first year. It's the best sports value in town, just 8 cents a day or $2.50 a month. You can't beat that. Subscribe now at kansascity.com/sportspass. Hey, before we talk with Brooke Pryor, let's hear from Chiefs General Manager Brett Veach, who met with the media on Thursday.
There's no one more driven than coaching our staff up there to get this thing, and we're not trying to build for the future. We're trying to win now, and we're going to stay aggressive, and we're going to try to put the best roster that we possibly can out there. And
Brooke Pryor is here. She just got back into town after taking care of a little personal business. What was that, Brooke?
I got married.
Got married, yeah.
So I think it's significant. My name hasn't changed, branding and all that, but I will answer to Mrs. Ricketson if I am called that. But okay. Teddy said he'll answer to Mr. Pryor, and he already has, so it's equality. It's 2019.
Well, congratulations to you and Teddy. So you cut the honeymoon short to return to Kansas City for the release of the Chiefs' 2019 schedule and the Brett Veach press conference. I thought that was pretty professional.
Who doesn't want a honeymoon at Arrowhead? Everyone. That's the hot new place. I cashed in all my Marriott points to make sure that we were back in time. No, but seriously, I did. We're not taking a honeymoon right now. We have some PTO things to work out, but I did want to make sure that we were back in time for this press conference, just because it's my first draft going through. It's obviously a significant time in the Chiefs' schedule, and in their offseason timeline, and with the schedule being announced. So it felt like Wednesday was a good time to get back at it. And then obviously that with the press conference today, another get back into the swing of things. There's also pizza. So, I showed up even without knowing there was going to be pizza there. But yeah, it was a good time to kind of get my feet wet again and get back into the flow. So
did Brett Veach say anything today that kind of raised your antenna?
The thing for me, and I'm working on this story right now, took a quick time out to hop on this podcast. But the fact that the moves that they made during free agency were kind of protection from them having to overdraft when the draft kicks off next week. And I think that's kind of a no-duh type thing. But it's true that some of the signings...
To hear him say that, we can speculate that, but
exactly.
He came out and said it.
The fact that he said it is huge, because so often... these press conferences are really just, a formality, and we're just kind of dancing around each other, and nobody really says what they mean. And so that is one thing that I love talking to Brett Veach, because he is a straight shooter. He will tell you straight up what he thinks. There is some gamesmanship. Obviously, he's not going to come right out and say, well, we're looking for a corner at pick 29. Fingers crossed it's Byron Murphy. But in situations like this, when he comes out and says, yeah, you know what, those moves we made during free agency, that was protection for us. It's going to make sure that I'm not overly aggressive. And I think for him, this draft is a lot about balancing his urge to be really aggressive with also being passive and patient. And some of what he was saying about free agency, kind of, we all thought maybe a month ago, yeah, it's a sure thing. The Chiefs are definitely going to try to trade up to take one of these top tier edge rushers or a safety or maybe even a top corner. But after what he said, I think that we're going to see them pick at 29, maybe move up to the low 20s, maybe 19, 18 if there's somebody there that they really, really want, depending on how the draft board shakes out. But the sense that I got was, in signings like Tyrann Mathieu and Bashaud Breeland and Damian Wilson and Alex Okafor and the trade for Manuel Ogbah, all of those moves were kind of made to make sure that, hey, we can go into this draft and at 29, we're going to take best available. It doesn't necessarily have to be, we're not going in saying we have to have a corner. We're going to take one that we've graded at a second or third round in the first because we need to fill that position that badly. They've got Bashaud Breeland.
They're right. They don't have to draft a starter with their first round pick.
Exactly. But NFL readiness is huge because at the corner position, I've already mentioned Byron Murphy, a kid out of Washington. He would be a huge get for the Chiefs because I kind of think he could come in and be a starter. You put Kendall Fuller at nickel, you have Bashaud Breeland be a starter also, and then Byron Murphy comes in as kind of that number 3 guy. And that would be huge. So I think it's a bonus for them if they can get a position that they do have a little bit more need at that is NFL ready. But if there's, like a Marquise Brown or something there, why not? That would be really fun. Give Patrick Mahomes another weapon. They could pick up an offensive lineman. Garrett Bradbury's been a popular name to float out with that number 29 pick, a center out of NC State. Get a D lineman, an edge if Cleveland Farrell fell to 29, something like that. But, I think that the Chiefs are in a good position going into this draft.
And we're going to talk about the draft in a much bigger way next week on the Ultimate Draft podcast.
Oh, it's ultimate. Right. Well, now you know it's serious.
That's right. One of the things that struck me today was Brett Veach's references to players that were already in, on the 90 that he had acquired one way or the other, either through the draft last year or through free agency. So guys like Armani Watts and Jordan Lucas and Travarius Ward.
Byron Pringle.
Pringle was a really interesting name for him to bring up, the Kansas State wide receiver who suffered the injury in training camp last year. But, I've heard his name a couple of times. Andy Reid has referenced it, and now Veach today. They're pretty high on the guy.
They are. And was the hamstring injury in the preseason game, and then when they were evaluating that, they found a sports hernia, and so those two combined put him on IR. And I kind of thought that he would need another strong training camp and strong preseason to make the roster. But it's sounding more and more like he's not necessarily a lock, but that they really like him, and maybe he doesn't need to have as stellar of an offseason, preseason training camp as maybe I thought that he needed to definitely get a spot.
Well, and wide receiver is a position that it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One of which is Chris Connolly is gone, left in free agency to the Jaguars, I believe.
Yes,
right?
yes, week 1. We'll see him.
We'll see Chris Connolly. And there's uncertainty surrounding Tyreek Hill. But Andy Reid said earlier this week he was singing the praises of Demarcus Robinson, which I thought was interesting as well. So maybe just a kind of a different look at the wide receiver position next year. We'll get into that also in a bigger way next week. The other news that the Chiefs made this week, as did the entire NFL, was the release of the 2019 schedule. And I don't think I've ever seen more excitement, a longer period of excitement for an announcement that the effect wore off in about 2.5 minutes after it was made. I mean, we spent all day wondering and chasing leaks, and
I'm just shaking my head. Like, this is one of those times when I wish we were on Facebook Live so everyone could see how disinterested my face is. Because one way or another, we were going to find out what the schedule was. But yeah, there was a lot of buildup for something that, like, Congrats.
Yeah, here
now,
it is.
now we all know what we're going to be doing in 4 months.
We knew that everybody knew their opponents, and
Yes.
some of the games had been leaked out. We knew the Chiefs weren't playing in the Thursday night opener that had already been announced. Packers and Bears. We thought that the Chiefs and the Patriots might have been aligned for the Sunday night opener. That didn't happen. So
Sure
the Chiefs,
did not.
the Chiefs got their 16 games, as did every other NFL team. I thought it was a little bit interesting that they start with 2 on the road, right? At Jacksonville,
again.
at Oakland for the second straight year. Last year, we were told that the reason the NFL likes to start teams home and away or away and home.
Right.
But last year, the Chiefs started away because of the Taylor Swift concert at Arrowhead.
Will there be another Taylor Swift concert?
There is no concert scheduled for
Good,
Arrowhead.
because I had a lot of FOMO last year when I missed both Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran at Arrowhead. Not thrilled with that. I understand that if any blockbuster concert comes through Arrowhead in the fall, I will miss it if it's on a weekend. Still not thrilled about it. But yeah, it is interesting that the NFL did that to the Chiefs 2 years in a row. Last year, we kind of thought it was not a kiss of death, because nothing is a kiss of death early in the season, but that the Chiefs were going to come out of those first 4 games with 3 of the first 4 on the road, with at least 1 loss. And that wasn't the case. This year, again, they have 3 out of the first 4 on the road. They don't open at home until week 3 against the Ravens, and then they're back on the road for the Lions.
Right.
It's this year's opening schedule is a lot easier, even if it is a similar pattern to what it was last year.
So look for them to start 1-3.
Right. Well, I did on my schedule prediction that I did last night. I have them losing to the Raiders in week 2 because I just like to stir up controversy, I guess, as has been said. But I do think that could be a surprising game. I also think Detroit could be kind of a trap game when you're coming off of that home opener. They could easily be looking ahead to who's their week 5 opponent. Is that the Colts?
Yeah, that Colts-Texans go back to back.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. So Colts Sunday Night Football. Detroit, the only thing exciting about Detroit is the possibility of playing there on Thanksgiving. Sorry, Matt Stafford. There's just, it's kind of a ho-hum game in between 2 significant games. So I think that could be a trap situation. I still have the Chiefs winning that one, but obviously there's a lot more things that are going to happen between now and the start of the season. But the opening slate of games, I think they're going to come out 3-1.
Yeah, that sounds about right. They came 4-0 last year. So, so you're driving back from North Carolina.
Yes.
You hopped in the car.
A lot of time on I-70.
Yes, on I-70. Let me
I-64 to I-70.
Having made that drive, you would have gone I-40 to I-77 to I-64 to 70.
Is that the one that's going through Nashville? Is that the drive? Are you talking going through West Virginia?
West Virginia, the West
yes,
Virginia
that is
Turnpike.
the drive we did. We
Yes.
paid like $12 to drive through West Virginia.
Right.
That's why. Why did we spend that money? But
And what does one do when driving through parts of Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky?
when one has cell phone service, which was rare, you just do mock drafts for fun, as any new bride would do. I just went between ordering things off the Zola registry that people got for us, like hitting that ship button, which is just really rewarding. Like, yes, I will take this popcorn maker, and I do want these new bed sheets. And then also, let's run through a 7-round mock draft, which is, just a blast. And this time I had been doing my mocks through Fanspeak, but Fanspeak is not super mobile friendly. The Draft Network, though, does have a mobile friendly mock system. So I ran through a couple 7-round mock drafts, drafting as the Chiefs. And then just for fun, I had them do one where you can click like Chiefs, like I want to see the draft simulator auto draft for the Chiefs with the big board and the team's needs. And then, so for this mock draft that we published online Wednesday, went through and did a side-by-side comparison of my second mock that I did was a manual one, and then the auto simulator. And the frustrating thing is I don't know how their algorithms shift, but when I ran through my first 2 mocks as I was drafting for the Chiefs, Byron Murphy was never available at 29. He got taken off the board.
Quarterback from Washington.
He's getting a lot of love on this podcast, so come on, Byron. You're really getting pumped up here, so it guarantees the Chiefs will not take him.
Won't be available.
And then when the auto one went through and did it, lo and behold, Byron Murphy available at 29. I was like, come on, like what? That's not fair, because that's who I wanted to take. So I took Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a safety from Florida. Yep, all-around versatile guy. I think he would pair really well with Tyrann Mathieu. They're both versatile players. I think that you could kind of alternate who's free, who's safety. Neither one's really locked in or strong. Neither one's really locked into one of those spots. And I think that that's what the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo like, is that versatility and that flexibility to kind of move them all over the field. So I felt good about that. My internet is not connecting because that's how long I haven't been in the office. It's making me change passwords, so I can't tell you who else I had at all the different spots, but I do remember that I had the Chiefs addressing their tight end need. I waited too long to get a quality edge guy, and I kind of regret that, and I just kind of panicked and drafted one in the 6th round, I think. And that was one of those points when the internet was kind of sketchy, so I couldn't Google, like, oh, is Wyatt Ray really someone that fits the system? No, he fits a 3-4 instead of a 4-3, but hey, I drafted him anyway. But yeah, I think overall the AI, artificial intelligence, beat me in the draft if we're going to have winners and losers, only because their algorithm let them take a player that I really wanted. But we both took Vosean Joseph, the linebacker. I can't think where he's from. The auto draft took him in the 2nd round. I was able to grab him, I believe, in the 4th, which is just kind of interesting the way that those different things shake out. But I think that linebacker is a priority for the Chiefs, because I'm not sold on the guys that they have now being guys that they can ride with all season.
I'll tell you, if I've heard that wedding trip story once, I've
Doesn't
heard
everyone
it 1,000
honeymoon
times
like that? No.
Returning home, doing a mock draft on the highways and byways of the Ohio Valley.
I also read a Casey draft guide during my hair and makeup trial on Monday, because again, you're in the chair for a really long time, and like my hair and makeup artists, they were great, they were wonderful. They also didn't really want to chat about the Chiefs, which is fine and understanding, but like, I've got things to do after the wedding. Like, the world surprisingly doesn't actually stop when you get married, and things keep happening.
Wait, what?
I know, it's amazing. So I was like, well, I have some time here. I'm going to be in this chair for like 3 hours. I'm going to go ahead and download this draft guide and flip through it and at least, maximize my time. So that's what I did, like all brides do.
Well, we're glad to have you back.
I'm happy to be back. I kind of wish I had a little bit longer off, but it's okay. We're going to take a bigger honeymoon a year from now. Well, probably next June, because I don't want to miss a minute of the build up to the draft.
Well, and then OTAs and minicamp, and it's so much fun.
Miss it. It's going to be the time of my life. Far more important and exciting than a honeymoon could ever be.
Thanks for hanging out with us, Brooke Pryor.
Of course, I'm happy to do it.
You can find links to Brooks and Vahe's stories in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Until next time, thanks for listening to SportsBeat KC.